And mozzarella accounts for about 1/3 of Wisconsin's cheese production. And some of those other top varieties of cheese that Wisconsin is known for includes feta, Romano, provolone, Parmesan, cheddar, and various other specialty cheeses. And these cheeses can be found all across the country. You shared, Joanna, that stat that 90% of our milk is made into cheese, and the 90% of that cheese is sold outside of Wisconsin. And we can actually find Wisconsin cheese in 98% of grocery stores across the country. So we're very well known for our cheese, not only here in Wisconsin, but across the country.
Right. And when a person is going out to buy some cheese, how do they know that they are getting a Wisconsin cheese?
You know that you are purchasing genuine Wisconsin cheese when you see the Proudly Wisconsin cheese badge or the Proudly Wisconsin dairy badge. I have a few examples in my display here, and focusing in the center, this is the example of the Proudly Wisconsin cheese badge. So when you see this badge on dairy product packaging, especially cheese, you know that that product has been made and processed right here in the state of Wisconsin with milk from one of our family-owned dairy farms in our state. It's a great and easy way to identify Wisconsin dairy products, and it's one of the best ways to truly support local and support Wisconsin's dairy farmers and processors.
Yeah, be looking for that badge. And if
Yes.
I have listeners that are joining us now that have listened to my Wisco Ag News podcast, I've interviewed a few different Wisconsin cheesemakers. And one of them I joked, I'm like, they should call you a doctor cheesemaker for how much schooling and education and like their residency almost that they have to go through. Can you share more about that intense process that it is to become a cheesemaker?
Of course, our Master Cheesemaker program here in Wisconsin is so special, and there are so many great stories to share when it comes to our cheesemakers here in Wisconsin. So when it comes to our licensed cheesemakers, we have nearly 1,200 licensed cheesemakers in Wisconsin, and then we also have an elite group of cheesemakers known as our Master Cheesemakers. So we are the only location outside of Europe to have a master cheesemaker program. We're the only state in the country that has a master cheesemaker program. And in order to become a master cheesemaker, a cheesemaker must first have at least 10 years of experience in cheese making, and then they essentially go to school to continue on education when it comes to producing different varieties of Wisconsin cheese. So our Master Cheesemaker program, it's a 3-year program where our cheesemakers learn specifically about different varieties of cheese that they hope to specialize in. And our Master Cheesemaker program is certainly the equivalent of earning a PhD because of all of the training and the education and the skills required to make different and delicious varieties of Wisconsin cheese.
Right. There's so much sophistication that goes into their education.
Oh my goodness, it's amazing.
Their experiences. Well, also here in Wisconsin, and I feel like this should be no surprise that it's housed here in Wisconsin, but the Center for Dairy Research's headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin. Can you tell us about the importance that CDR, Center for Dairy Research, plays for Wisconsin dairy?
The Center for Dairy Research plays such a pivotal role in Wisconsin's dairy industry, especially when it comes to research and innovation and development on behalf of Wisconsin's dairy industry. I've had the chance to visit the Center for Dairy Research a few times now, and every time I step into that innovative space, I'm always learning something new about Wisconsin's dairy industry and how the Center for Dairy Research really helps to support our state's dairy farmers and processors and other local businesses involved within the dairy industry, whether it's focused on cheese or butter or many other dairy products. There is so much research and innovation taking place to continue to drive demand for our state's dairy products. and to continue to allow Wisconsin to be known as America's Dairyland. There's over 30 researchers at the Center for Dairy Research who are truly focused on development and innovation when it comes to Wisconsin's dairy industry. And they usually have delicious Wisconsin cheese samples to try as well when you visit, which is the next part, right?
Yeah, right. You're encouraging everyone to stop out at CDR and maybe get a sample. And I know when I've talked to some of the researchers there, it's, that like a big driver is that innovation, but they also shared with me it's fixing current issues that might be happening. So if there's a processor that's having issues with trying to age their cheese, that it's also a resource for people that do, on-farm processing or our processors to get their questions answered.
Exactly right. There's a lot of troubleshooting that takes place as well for our state's processors and dairy farmers within the Center for Dairy Research. And it's really all focused on strengthening Wisconsin's dairy industry and continuing to come up with new and innovative and efficient ways in order to process our dairy products and continue to be known as a dairy powerhouse when it comes to the state of Wisconsin. So like you said, there's a lot of great resources for our processors, for our local businesses, especially if you have questions or want to shoot certain things within your processing facility or on your dairy farm.
Right. And now, Ashley, transitioning to talking about more with your role as Alice, you connect with a lot of different students and just, the average consumer. What do they want to know about Wisconsin dairy farms?
In my travels as Alice, I have found that so many consumers of all ages, whether students or older, are really focused on wanting to know more about where their food comes from and how is the high quality and delicious milk that we all get to enjoy and that gets turned into other dairy products. How is that produced? How do our dairy farmers continue to be good stewards of the land and animals, natural resources, the environment? And I love sharing those stories about Wisconsin's dairy farmers with consumers across our state and beyond. Each dairy farm has such a unique story to tell when it comes to playing a role here in Wisconsin and here in America's Dairyland. And I love sharing more about how milk is produced on our dairy farms, how it is processed, and eventually what those products turn into. And on the consumer side, how can we support local? How can we be on the lookout for those Wisconsin-specific dairy products in order to support our state's dairy farmers and processors and continue to strengthen America's dairyland?
Last question for you, Ashley. What advice do you have for dairy farmers to share their everyday experience with their local communities?
A huge piece of advice that I have and that I know so many Wisconsin's dairy farmers put into practice is bringing folks out to your farm, whether that's through a farm tour with local students or hosting a breakfast on the farm, especially as we get into the month of June and celebrating National Dairy Month. There are so many fun and unique and exciting ways for everyone to engage with Wisconsin's dairy industry. And a lot of that really special engagement comes from the dairy farm. So again, I would encourage our state's dairy farmers to continue hosting those farm tours, host those breakfasts on the farms, host those other educational experiences for consumers of all ages to have the ability to experience. I love the chance to see people get onto farms. Maybe they're petting a dairy cow for the first time, or they're seeing how milk is produced, or they're having the chance to interact one-on-one with that dairy farmer and their family. And those are where the really impactful conversations and really impactful moments come from. And then you create consumers for life of Wisconsin's dairy products. And to me, that's what it's all about.
Right. And farmers have a really great message to share, and they're doing these exceptional things, whether that's with their cows or with the land, that they shouldn't hesitate to be sharing that with their community or on the social channels. I think some people become intimidated, but they can check out your social channels and seeing how you're promoting it and then think, hey, how can I be doing this for my farm or my business? and getting great examples from you. So, Ashley, thank you so much for your time, for sharing more about the Wisconsin dairy industry. Like she mentioned, it contributes $45.6 billion to Wisconsin's economy each year. And we always appreciate having you on. So, thank you so much for your time, Ashley.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure chatting. I love chatting Wisconsin cheese, Wisconsin dairy. We love everything that Wisconsin agriculture has to offer, and it's always so much fun highlighting different topics in our conversations. So thank you so very much.